Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Monique and the channel is the Yogi Minimalist Fit Enthusiast. That's exactly what I represent. So here it goes. Now, I wanted to come back into Yamas and Niyamas. So the Yamas are what we practice outside of ourselves. So what do we utilize our practices when it comes to other people? And niyamas is something that's more internal, something that we take on within ourselves. Today, and I apologize ahead of time, just finished doing a group workout with some other trainers because I am a certified personal trainer. So I was doing a meeting and working out with them, and then I was getting my camera all set up. But anyhow, getting right back into it. For the yamas, I wanted to discuss ahimsa, and for the niyamas, I want to go into saucha. Ahimsa is nonviolence, no non-harm, kindness towards ourselves and others. So, and this doesn't necessarily have to mean physically. So anything that can be harmful, keep that in mind. So that's what ahimsa covers. So that's something that, we all need to practice, not just on the mat, but also off the mat. All of us can take a look deeper and see if we're harming people or if we're self-sabotaging ourselves to a certain degree. In previous videos, I talked about narcissistic people, and that's something that I'm still recovering from. That's something that you're gonna have to recover from any type of trauma you endured, whether if it's narcissistic abuse or any type of abuse. And I'll definitely go more into that. But you definitely want to see about, you can't just heal yourself. No. It's a process. But, unfortunately, there are times when hurt people hurt people, which I'm sure we've all heard. So going into this today's discussion for ahimsa, you really want to think about those things. Are you the one that's causing harm to other people, or something that's being harm towards us, self-sabotaging? Definitely something to look into, because we have enough going on in the world. We don't need to add on to it. There's just no sense of that. We have this one life to live, regardless of what beliefs are. That's not what I'm discussing. But in right now, presently, in the moment, we have this current life. So why not make it the best? Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna go over some notes here. And then it goes over how violence looks. I mean, look around. Violence is pretty much everywhere, not just what we see in the news, but in other countries too, that we may not be aware of. It's real unfortunate, and unfortunately, we can't save the world. However, I'm a firm believer that if we make those corrections within ourselves, we wouldn't have to stress about saving the world, because it's a practice that we are starting with ourselves, and eventually it spreads out. If you're taking care of yourself, and you're finding ways to heal and not harm people and support people and encourage them to heal themselves too, I mean, it spreads. Right? Why not spread more love, right? But like I said, it doesn't have to be a violent thing. It can be, how we're using our words, how we're conversing with other people, how we're delivering, our messages. So, and that can be how we're looking at someone, or Are we being unfair to them, a co-worker or whoever? Any type of way that can cause some type of harm or violate someone. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that it can be done, but what are more productive and healthier ways, to establish a healthier relationship with yourself and with others? A lot of it comes from fear. When you think about it, a lot of these violent acts, and it can be something that we're fearful of when it comes to ourselves, something that, or maybe a dislike, like we may not really actually like ourselves deep down inside. So we project that out. Lots of projection. But yeah, I mean, you can't say we're practicing yoga on the mat and then off the mat you're just this horrible person. I mean, that doesn't go together. That doesn't go together. You want to take with what you practice on your mat for your asana practice, you want to take that energy with you out into the world. This gives us a moment to pause and sit and reevaluate ourselves and really build that connection with ourselves. And it's a practice. It's not something that, you do for that one day. You become more mindful of what you're doing on and off the mat. And, as I mentioned, it's a practice. So you practice, and not to say practice makes perfect, because we're not perfect. We're human. However, it makes us better humans, right? All right, so moving on, I am going to, and there's more information about Ahimsa, 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 non-harm, non-violent, under the yamas of what we practice in the outer world. In the inner world, for ourselves, for the niyamas, Saucha is really good because it's about purity. And I put these two together because when you think of it, it's that wholeness and purity you have within yourself for Saucha, and it helps you combat Ahimsa. I don't believe that one cannot put Ahimsa into practice if they're not really pure within themselves. No, and that's the thing about the Yamas and Niyamas. They have their own separate, practices, but they're interchangeably work together. It just, for me, it makes sense in that way. I feel like when you're doing one, others can come along too. And it also depends on the day. For me, for right now, the Saucha for the Niyamas and the Ahimsa under Yamas, they really go together, especially with the theme that's going on in today's world. Okay, let's see. And Saucha, so it's purification versus cleanliness. So it's cleaning our external selves, cleaning our environments. And that can be, internal and external. It's really about cleansing. And for me, for instance, I practice minimalism. And for me, with minimalism, which I've been practicing for about a decade now, maybe a little more than 10 years, maybe a little bit more. But with that practice for me, it started with materials. So, shopping too much, having all these items that I did not need or want later on down the line. But it really helped me control the impulses that I would have, and like, I need to get this, I need to get this. For what? In that moment in time, maybe I was trying to fill a void, trying to fill something. I wasn't feeling cleanliness within myself. I was not pure within myself. There's a lot of chaotic and toxicity that I was in. And you sometimes you have to get away from that to actually realize it. But know that one thing, it can start with one thing. For me, the minimalism, it first began with materials. And then it went deeper than that. It went much deeper than that. It went to the type of people I was around. So cutting back on, shopping and getting all this stuff, because that's what it is. It's just stuff. And then cutting off people, cutting off all these jobs. I had a lot of work and work projects that I was doing, and it's really just cleaning and coming down to who we really are, as ourselves, and cleaning our environment, our minds, our hearts. So again, elimination to me is what's important, and practicing minimalism is what really helped me with that. Saucha is unique for everyone, and there's different types. Like how can we increase cleanliness? So for example, when it comes to your diet, you want to cut processed foods out. You want to cut out sugar. You want to do stuff that is making you better internally, and but also focus on what's around you too. So as I mentioned, I feel like when you practice that within yourself, it allows you to lessen the harm of what you're doing with yourself and with others. So just kind of tying back into the ahimsa. And then too, so my mentor slash teacher, she put a breakdown with Saucha and relationships. So relationships with time, relationships with self, relationships with other, and with the earth. So again, it's kind of going back and forth with how we are with ourselves for one, but in comparison with Ahimsa, how is our relationship with ourselves, with others, and the environment? Are we causing harm? With Saucha, it's more of how are we cleansing within ourselves internally? Because for me, like I mentioned, we're gonna project out what's going on in here, in our heart, in our mind, all of that. We're gonna project that out. So why not be the best version of yourself, be as clean and as pure, as whole as one can be. And it takes practice. It does not mean that we're all just going to be this highly divine person or thing or whatever. And then that's it. It just does not work that way. It's not that easy, and that's why a lot of us don't practice these things, because it sounds like a simple thing to practice, but to actually sit down and take the time, evaluate what we need to do, what we need to clean, cut off, or whatever, it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, but it has to be done. So just like how we have our daily habits of eating, making sure we're nourishing ourselves, we're working, or whatever your job is, we have all these different responsibilities. Those responsibilities should be matched with what you're doing with yourself too. Because when we're doing too much of something, we start to deplete ourselves from other things. And it can be tricky. It can be a little tricky trying to find that balance, but it is doable. It is doable. So my homework for you, my yoga homework for you is practice Ahimsa and Saucha, or one or the other. You do not have to cram a lot on your plate. You don't have to do that. Or if you are already practicing these Yamas and Niyamas, what are ways that you're doing that? Share, comment below. But yeah, if you want more information on it, I do recommend doing your own personal research, because there is a lot of information out there on Ahimsa and Saucha and the other Yamas and Niyamas. There's 5 of them each. So do some research if you would like, or get a personal sense of how you would like to practice yoga off the mat. Thank you so much for joining me today in today's discussion with Ahimsa and Saucha. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste.